2 minutes late. There were chicken nuggets being served, and I couldn't get on here. What's up, everybody? Live chat. Let's do that. There it goes. Tracy Pinter's back. The world is right again since Tracy Pinter's back. What's up, everybody? I see you over there. I am happy to be here this evening. I have a lot going on this week, and I had a lot of cool work to get done today, but I'm ready to answer some teacher questions on here. So we'll get all set up in a second. I'm just waiting for people to kind of jump on, and then we'll kind of take it from there. I don't know what to talk about. Oh, I'm waiting. Yeah,
did anybody start back at school yet?
Yeah, let's do that. How many of you have already started back at school, whether PD or with students? That's what I'm wondering. Carl Beatty's stoked that he made it. I'm stoked too. And then I'm seeing questions up there already. Get your questions in now, and I will get on that. When
do you start back at school?
So when do I? Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering when everyone starts back at school. I start back, I don't even know, dude. Like, it's like
sometime in the end of August.
Darren had put up a post on Instagram the other day that said something like, I see all these classroom setup videos and it's just making me anxious. And I'm like, because we're off for like another month, but I have like a talk in there at a school. There's some business stuff that's due, and I just have like a lot more of my stuff to get done before it goes back.
Yeah, you're more like unicorns.
PD on Tuesday, August 14th, August 12th. Gosh, I wonder if that is. I wonder if those dates are like because you folks are in the South, because like the South gets done earlier. Like I know where your mom lives in New Mexico is different. 12th, end of August. We don't actually. Students don't actually come back for us until after Labor Day, which in the U.S. is maybe September 4th, something like that. So like we are. I don't know anybody that goes back later than us. Do you?
No, I think we're always the latest.
Yeah.
That's cool.
No, it'd be great since you always wave at the camera. Wouldn't it be great to have a shirt that was just
my hand?
It was like comes out the side of the shirt.
I don't even know where I am
And
here.
it's just like a hand on your shirt, and it's like that's the not so secret wife shirt. Okay, so let's jump into this. For those of you that do not know, that are new, that are I don't know what else.
Just found us.
This is Real Rap with Reynolds Sunday night teacher talk, and what we do is we meet on Sundays for a reason, because people get nervous about Monday mornings and they get nervous about school and they're trying to figure stuff out and they're trying to be the best teachers that they can. So, man, I talk really fast, but maybe I'll be an auctioneer one day. If this doesn't work out, maybe I'll be an auctioneer. The hope here is that folks show up, you ask questions, you put them in the chat. We go in order and try and get through as many questions as we can. And no question is off the table. I'll talk about anything as long as it's like in the world of education or in the world of like being a better person or something along those lines. What also happens here is the folks that are in the chat are going to answer your questions as well. So maybe I don't know something and somebody else is a professional at that, or they really have done that a lot. Those folks will be able to help you too. So like that's part of the gig, right? So this isn't just the Reynolds show, even though it is called essentially the Reynolds show. It is Reynolds and his merry band of followers show, really, because everyone in here is pretty awesome. Except for that one guy that shows up every once in a while and talks about Satan, but that's a whole nother story. Look, if this isn't enough for you, we have a Facebook group, Real Rap with Reynolds Teacher Talk on Facebook. That is a closed Facebook group just for educators. Most of these folks are in there as well. Or you could have me like come speak at your school, or you can sign up for private mentorship through me, and you can get all that information at realrapwithreynolds.com. There's so many platforms. It really makes you kind of feel like you're a professional when you have like a .com or like You're all over the place. Why are you handing me this piece of paper?
I'm not. I'm pushing it out of my way, which just happens to be towards you.
Cool. Or soon I'll be able to say, or you can just read my book and tell people where to get it. At B. Dalton bookstores. First question is B. Dalton bookstores. It's right next to Sam Goody in the mall. Tracy Pinter is the only one that's like, yes, I know what you're talking about right Brahmani Ravi is asking, I think I said your name right. If I didn't, I apologize. How has Gary Vee changed your life? Gary Vee, for me, has changed my life in that I run my business in very much the way that Gary Vee would tell you to run your business, right? So like I am searching hashtags. I am putting out as much content as I possibly can. I'm doing live feeds. I am trying to be of service as much as possible. And then the whole like give, then ask. And I haven't asked anyone for anything ever. But I do have like, there's some stuff coming up that I think is going to be like the book. I think is going to be really valuable to people, especially first-year teachers or people that just kind of feel alone in the profession. And then I have this other business initiative that is going to get launched sometime in the fall that I'm sworn to secrecy for, but I think that is going to provide an enormous amount of value for people. So that is there. For my class, like going to VaynerMedia literally changed students' lives. Like kids that were very much caught up on the streets, kind of lost, not really sure what to do, where to go. And that's not everyone I brought is like, you know, like drug dealers in West Philadelphia or something like that. But like, some of them come from really great homes. Like my guy, Akil, is a great student, comes from a great home, but like I think it gave students focus in a way that they never thought of before. And for no other reason, it's like meeting this guy who built a really like important business, and being in his office, like on the 90 millionth floor of some building in Manhattan was like something out of the ordinary for my students. So I think that's like my two go-to answers. What do you got, dude?
Well, I guess it's a kind of question.
That top one?
Yeah.
So my buddy, the Diary of a Mad Black Teacher, is asking, tell us about the book. So the book, I sent in the final draft or the first draft anyway. And so I have to get connected with the editor, and I probably won't have those like, so you send it to the editor makes notes, they send it back to you, and you have to fix stuff. That probably won't happen for what I'm told is about 2 months. So I'm waiting to see what that is going to look like. Then after that, it will come out like I think it's like a month after I send in my revisions. So I'm hoping that that's going to happen around Thanksgiving, but we'll see. And my publisher is like reading that draft this weekend to let me know kind of what the next steps are and stuff. So it's exciting. But once I know that, once they kind of sign off on my title, because I had like 3 titles that I came up with, I'll be able to share that with everyone. And the book is essentially, it's a guidebook for new teachers or for folks that are like just kind of burnt out or need a little bit of, I don't know. I say the word inspiration. I guess I say the word inspiration, but it's not like chicken soup for the soul. It's like
teaching inspiration.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's really, really practical tips you can use in your classroom. You can go in tomorrow that are a little bit left of center, right? Like most of the content that I make. And then infused in there are a bunch of stories that I've never shared before on YouTube, that have been some of the greatest wins and losses in my teaching career. And I just think that they're useful to people in a very real way. So
I think it's fair to say that your book takes very complicated teaching ideas and simplifies them and explains them through stories and your personal.
It's the Mrs. Gump's Guide to Teaching. Because Mama always explained things so I can understand.
I love it. To me, that's the best.
What else you got? You want?
Nope. No, come on, it's too early for singing. We got lots of questions.
Esther Ryan, I think I said that right, is asking, what does your first day of school look like this year? Any changes? That's a good question. I am been planning in my head anyway on how to make a better year this year. So like I had this idea a couple years ago where it was going to be the best school year ever. And then my co-teacher that planned all this out with jumped ship like 2 months in and took a different job. So then it made it for like pretty much like the most difficult year ever. So this year will be with my current co-teacher, I'll be teaching another year with him. It's what it's looking like this year. So I think the switch is going to be trying to like actually co-teach a class this year. So that means me letting go of control a little bit so that somebody else has their say more. So I'm thinking that that's going to lend itself to what I'm doing this year, but I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like because I'm not in that mode yet, right? Like I don't need as much time to ramp up for the beginning of the year. It's kind of like if school started tomorrow, I could just start just fine. Because I've been doing the same thing for so long, not because I'm particularly good at it, because I just did the same thing for a long time. So I don't know that there's going to be any particular changes, but in getting ready for this year and getting speakers ready and getting like ideas ready, like the other night we had this crazy blacklight dance party for my kids, and because it was Brody's 12th birthday. And so in that we gave the kids glow in the dark body paint, and then we ended up like putting it on our faces and stuff. And so we were talking about like, so my co-teacher was here because he DJ'd it. He was saying like, we should give face paint out to the kids when we read Lord of the Flies this year to really like embody that sense of like becoming savages and like changing your external look and stuff like that. And we also thought we would use a smoke machine in the classroom because we use it at the party, and then it turns out that makes your smoke alarm go off. And I'm not sure why I would think otherwise, because, you know, it's a smoke machine. Why wouldn't it make my smoke alarm go off? But then the smoke alarm went off and scared the crap out of all the kids at the party. And then me and my co-teacher stood there waving paper plates in the air to make it stop. So don't use a smoke machine in class, kids. So yeah, that doesn't really answer your question, I guess, but it's kind of what I'm thinking about. Scott Ordway is asking, hey, CJ, how do I grade my students' work effectively while not spending hours on it? Scott, I think I look for like what I want out of it, right? So this is a good question for like if other folks have an idea about this to help Scott out. But like I look for very specific things. So if I'm grading an essay, there's like maybe 5, maybe 10 on the outside things I'm looking for that I want to make sure my students are doing at any particular time. So like that might be like, of course, like punctuation and capitalization. That might look like, hey, stop like typing like you text. It might be subject verb agreement because a lot of my students use like mess up the be verb a lot in writing. So they overlap like street language or how they would talk on the street or with their friends with how you should speak when you're writing something professionally. So there's a handful of things I'm looking for, and that really helps a lot. I also made a video about how to grade stuff recently too. So you can just go on my channel and like look up like at the top, like type in grading practices or something like that. And I go through like using things like Zip Grader or Quick Grade or something like that helps if you're doing multiple choice assignments. Or having students grade each other's stuff, having other students grade some of my work for me that's not labor intensive. So I'll grade like the essay portion of a test, but they grade like all the multiple choice and matching stuff. So I don't have to waste my time doing that. So it's about looking for those little hacks, but also being very clear on what you're grading for. Don't be the Cheesecake Factory of the world when you're giving an assessment. I think be looking for something very specific that you're working on, and the kids can see the feedback on that and then keep moving forward. Oh, look at you. Mm-hmm. You're on point, girl. Man, it's Dave Liz. Davilas?
Don't look at me. I don't.
One of those is right. It sounds like a cool name. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm doing a very great disservice. And there's no chance I'm getting that last name. Campuzano.
I like that you still try, though.
I do, because it's like you want people to feel honored by like saying their name right, and then you screw it up. What's your favorite part of teaching? Oh my gosh. My favorite part of teaching is, I think, the communal aspect of it. So if I ever found myself not teaching anymore, I think so that's the lens through which I'm choosing to look at this. Like, what would I miss? And that must be my favorite part, is that communal aspect of it. I like teaching with other people. I like connecting with those people. I like solving problems with those people. I like having friends to go to when you don't know what to do with something. And I like the communal aspect of it with students also. I like building community. I like inviting people into something that's already built so they can feel a part of something. I like the invisible kid to not feel invisible anymore, but to know that they are seen. And all that is, I think, the hardest part of teaching. Like conveying like something to someone else seems to be like much easier if you have willing participants in whatever you're doing. When you don't have willing participants in your classroom, it's a hell of a lot harder to teach anything. But if people want to learn, if they're feeling included and cared for, then that just makes everything else easier. What are your feelings on year-round school? So this is NJ Spanteach. I think that's right. So look, not until I taught did I realize what teachers get off in the summer, really, right? So it was, in the US anyway, like I imagine other places in the world as well, because we are like formerly like mostly an agrarian society where like kids need it off in the summer to go help their parents on the farm to harvest and take care of the farm and stuff. But we don't really have that anymore. So what happens then, right? Like that's already in place. But when you teach and you get to the end of the year, like the year like can really kick your ass. I guess the other model for that would be to have chunks of time off during the year so that we're going all the time. I think there's probably benefits to both, but I think that sounds like a great idea. And I think it sounds like a great idea really because you are not losing all that time. Like the amount that students digress over the year and then we have to spend like a quarter of the year just reviewing last year's stuff is like ridiculous and just seems like a bad model. So why wouldn't you just go year round? I think it would work fine. It would probably be a lot more effective. But I say that like I've never actually taught that model. So it would be really interesting to like teach that. Like my friend Hannah in Australia, New Zealand does Hannah live in? That'll be mentored. I forget. She's probably on
I think
here.
New Zealand.
So she has year-round schooling, and it seems really interesting. It would be interesting to try anyway. Terrible Decisions. That's a great name. I get that. I'm just that's like
You like wit.
I do. I like witty names.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like names like Shirley Martini, who has
Hannah said Australia.
Oh, see? And most people probably think it's the same exact thing. But we all know that New Zealand's probably better. Oh, no, she's in Australia?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I just said that. I'm just going to really just say it because Lord of the Rings was shot there.
Oh.
It's really my only benefit, like the only uptick. Hi, first time participating. Awesome. Thank you for being here. I'm wondering if you have tips to provide meaningful feedback quickly. One, we had planning periods taken away this year. Oh my gosh, we start this week. Planning periods taken away. What is the logic in that?
Because they love to just make it hard for teachers.
They do. It's like teaching is like Ninja Warrior.
It really
where you
is.
start, it looks really exciting from the outside. Man, I can't wait to get in there. It's going to be awesome. And then you do those couple jump pads in the beginning. It's pretty cool. You got it under control. You know, you're feeling pretty good. Then you might do some kind of like rope climb, but you still have lactic acid in your system. Like you're all geared up. Then you get up there and then you're like, oh crap. Then they make you do that thing where you have to put your arms and legs on the side of the plastic and you got to shimmy all the way up. And you know what you realize then? This shit kind of sucks sometimes. And it's way harder than I thought. And if I fall, I'm going to hit my head on this, get a concussion, I might die. And so the further you go, the harder it gets. And then they get to like, oh, you're in the finale? Guess what? Now do it without your hands or your feet or something.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? So I think meaningful feedback from students. I've had friends that use Google Docs and have a lot of success in that because then students are writing in there. They'll have students like reflect on other students' writing. That's part of the activity. So my friend Randy does this, or used to do it anyway. Have students respond in a Google Doc or on like your website or something like that. Then you have students. Part of the assignment is to write a response, and you have to respond to two other people's responses with a meaningful response. And he has this all outlined, and there's a rubric for it, so you can see what that would actually look like. So you can't just say, "Great idea, bro. Sounds awesome." Not good enough. You have to have like maybe a 5-sentence response, and he gives you like sentence starters to get kids to really start thinking about what actual meaningful feedback looks like. And then you are emulating that by going on and doing it yourself. I use a lot of like shorthand when I grade stuff. So like students know that like certain symbols or certain words or certain, like if I circle something or if I underline it twice, like, you know what I mean when I'm looking at it. But I like to keep things, here's my punchline, I guess, is I like to keep things when I grade short and sweet. And then I invite students to come up and have the argument always. So I'd rather like be overly critical and then have you come back and talk to me about that. But again, I'm only looking for 1 to 5 things on any particular assignment that I'm grading for. And then I want to have the conversation with you. I think is a lot better than me just writing stuff, because most kids just look at their grade. You like can grade all the stuff you want. They're just looking at, oh, I got a 90, pretty good, put it in my book bag. And then they don't ever really look at all the crap. And you're like, dude, I literally just spent 20 minutes grading that assignment and putting a lot of meaningful feedback on there that you didn't do. So I think aside from that, one of the other things you could do is have students write back to some of your revisions, right? So you're creating this back and forth flow. So they have to like have they have to say something back to what you're grading. So that's kind of how I do that. But like that no prep thing is nonsense. And although I know you already know that terrible teaching, I think, or not terrible teaching. That would be.
What was her name now?
It was terrible something.
Oh, Decisions.
Decisions. It was terrible teaching.
That's not.
It's a funny name for a TV channel. Yeah. I'm wondering what anyone else would say to that. Like, how are all you kind of figuring that out too? Like, if you had that time taken away from you, like, how would you make the most of the time that you do have so you could just like really maximize it? Michael is asking, how do you deal with unrealistic career students say they want to go to like Instagram influencer and professional gamer? I talked about this, like, was it last week, 2 weeks ago, when someone said like their student wanted to be a YouTuber. I think, look, let kids run with that stuff, man. Like, but I make it very real what it looks like.
I think it's hard if someone doesn't do that world. Like, how does a typical teacher that doesn't understand Instagram, YouTube, all
so
of
students
that.
look at me all the time and they go, how do I build a YouTube channel? How do I build Instagram?
Fortunately, you know how to break that down.
Yeah.
Like, what about?
But you know what I don't know about? Sports. I haven't played sports since I was 12 because I sucked and I got put in the right field, even though my dad was the coach. Come on, Dad. So what I do is when some kid that's like 3 foot nothing comes into my 9th grade classroom and he's like, Reynolds, I'm going to play football one day for professionally. And I'm like, bro, I don't know, this isn't cards for you, my man. Like, you're like skinnier than a dead model and you weigh about 9 pounds. So like what I do for those students is not tell them you're never going to do that. You're never going to amount to that. You're not going to be able to accomplish it. And even if I'm being kind, I'm not saying you're like, I am trying to not crush someone's spirit. I print out what it takes to be an NFL player. How fast do you need to be able to run? How strong do you need to be? Like, because I'm sure there's outliers for everything, right? So like for me to tell anybody that they can't do anything is ridiculous. But what I can say is, okay, you want to do that? This is a great idea. What I want you to do is look up what you need specifically, like reverse engineer that situation, so that you know how fast you have to be able to run 100 yards. This is how little I know about sports. But like how fast you need to be able to run like 100 yards in or 25 yards in. And then time yourself. Where are you? Can you get to that place? Like, is it even feasible? I one time at the gym figured out how fast I would have to run a 5-minute mile. I then set the treadmill for that. I don't know if I ever told you I did this. Holy crap, man. It's fast as hell. When you do that, like I tried to put so you like hold on to the railing on the side. I tried to put my feet on there. I was like, nope, this feels like I'm being drugged behind a car. This is impossibly fast for me. I could never do it. And so I know that about myself. And so what you're trying to do is gear kids up for that. And I think it's a meaningful learning curve. It's like teaching them how to reverse engineer their lives and figure out how they get to the places they want to be. And because becoming a famous YouTuber isn't just nothing. It's learning how to edit. It's learning how to do thumbnails. It's learning how to speak without saying ah, ooh, ah, ee like 1,000 times. It's learning how to make what you're saying interesting. It's speaking skills. It's communication skills. Like speaking loud enough. A lot of my guys that make YouTube videos talk like this the whole time. All right, everybody, today we're going to play Fortnite. It's going to be really awesome. I got a new gun. You can see it right here. It's like no one wants to watch that. It sounds like, I don't know. That was the dumb joke. Sometimes I catch. I was going to say it sounds like you live under couch cushions, but that made no sense. So I would help them reverse engineer that situation. There's a fly in here. And that's what I would do. That fly distracted me. Maisie Anderson is saying, do you have students who always raise their hand in class and they always know the answer, but you have to pick on someone else? Yes. And so that's a great question. Or you have a kid that like always wants to participate, but doesn't really know they just like raise their hand for no reason. Like they just raise their hand. I think the way you go about that is saying like, there's 100 ways you could deal with this. But say, all right, my man Jalen over here has the answer, and I'm going to pick on Jalen, but I want to give somebody else an option first because Jalen is going to get all of the points. Like he's just like winning. Or say like, I will how else do I deal with this? Or just let the students know, like, all right, you get like I need a response from everyone. So you already responded? Cool. Hold on to your answer for a second. If nobody else has the answer, I'm going to pick on you. So you're giving other kids options also, or give that kid another job. So one of the things, and you might want to change the language for this because I don't know how like people feel about the word devil, but like I sign kids up to be the devil's advocate sometimes in school. And what I'm really doing is like asking kids to be instigators. So if we're reading something and we're talking about how like a particular book, I will have, and I want kids' views on it. I will assign a student who is secretly, their job is to just disagree with everyone, right? But it's a kid that likes to talk, that has a lot of points of view. So even if they agree with the student and they say, I think Jack is actually the good guy and Ralph is sort of is undermining what Jack is doing in Lord of the Flies, that student goes, no, you're wrong. Well, what about this? Well, what about this in the book? Well, what about this? And so it creates this pushback in class that makes it really fun. And it's kind of fun because you know that under all of this, like that dude or those dudes in class have been set up to push back against whatever anyone says. And it's good practice for the kid who confidently like gave their answer to know that someone's going to push back, and now they have to really respond and use textual evidence and stuff like that in class too. So that's a good way to like give those kids something else to do than just answer all of the questions all the time. Or they could even write the answers on the board, be like, all right, you know who those active participants are. Hey man, could you write the answers on the board after everyone says them, and then we know what it is. Says Hales Teach. What's up, Hales Teach? Do you ever stop to think, CJ, that do you ever stop to think of how weird it is that thousands of strangers watch you every week? I think it's a little bit unreal. Like even this right now, right? Like there's 106 people watching this right now, and like probably like a couple thousand people will watch this in the rebroadcast. And then when it comes out as a podcast, that's a whole nother fraction of folks. To me, it is, I am alone in my house right now. There's nobody else in my house, right? Except for the not so secret wife who was nervous that I was going to turn it on to her right there. So you're making this stuff alone and then you put it out, and I only have to engage in the reactions if I want to. And to be honest, I've said this before, I struggle with compliments. So it's part of like a spiritual practice for me to read all the nice comments. I don't know, none of my YouTuber friends see, and this is not a diss to them, but no one gets as much consistent love in the comments as I do. Like I get crap from other people that are like, no one ever says anything mean to you. I'm like, yes, there were 5 people last year that said something nasty to me. But I'm not exactly sure where that is, but look, my point is that like I have a hard time with that stuff. So it's not a big deal because I only have to engage with it when I want, and I like it. Like I like creating this stuff. I like helping people out. I like making someone's day. I like giving people practical strategies to help stuff out. So I guess not. My short answer for that. How's the this is Annalicia Green is saying, how's the podcast coming along? And also Franklin Wall, thanks for giving me
99 cents.
What is it? 99 cents. I appreciate it.
The podcast is coming slow because it's the not so secret wife's job, and
who's helping us out? Jake, who's probably on here right
waiting.
now.
The poor guy's waiting on me.
Jake is waiting on us. So we had to make an intro and an outro. So the fun part is for the intro for the podcast, I got my guy Cheesesteak to do the intro for me. And the music is by the same guy, Orion, that I always use, who's like friggin' amazing. And I created the outro for that. So now it's just getting it to Jake so Jake can do his job, which Jake is like helping us out for free by creating the podcast out of all the live feeds. So,
and it's just been a to-do.
My dad,
it's been a tough month.
Yeah, I think with your dad passing, it like pushed everything, kind of like rocked everything. So
we're trying. We're chugging along.
Yeah, it's getting there. It will absolutely happen.
Yeah. All right. Here's your next
question. Got it. Brian Aldridge is asking, 40-year-old teacher here. I'll be teaching 7th through 12th ELA. Any advice? So, or not Brian, Bran, are you, first year teacher? All right, that's what I was going to ask. First of all, man, Bran, let me talk about how awesome it is that you started teaching at 48. So many people, maybe this includes you, I don't really know, get nervous, feel like less than because they are teaching when they are older. And I just think I think teaching at 22 has to be harder because although you think you're younger and you're hipper or you're like have more time or whatever it is, like you don't have very much life experience. And so, or anything you have has probably been through the lens of like your parents going on trips with you or you taking, like, even if you went abroad, you were like with other people. But in like when you start teaching later, you have tons of experience. And you know what like the world is like and what it's like to pay a mortgage and what you need to do to get by and what hard work looks like and sacrifice looks like. And I think that all translates to the class. So I would first of all look at all that stuff as a positive, and it's going to be something that like makes you stand out in the classroom. I think other than that, don't wait to be the teacher that you always wanted to be. Try all those ideas and stuff from the jump and just throw them out there, see what works, what doesn't work, get rid of it. What does work, use it again next year. And have fun with it. Like don't over complicate the situation. Don't make things harder than they have to be. But try and have as much fun with it as you can, because that is going to change the culture of the school for the better, or continue the culture of the school. Because so maybe you work at someone that's already innately happy, but it helps you to like get along with the people you work with, helps you like kind of laugh at things with the students, and have fun in your classes. And school sucks for the most part, right? It's not fun. For the most part, school is not a fun place to be. And so if you can make it a little bit more fun, then do everything that you can to do that while still getting your point across to kids and teaching them. That's what I would do. Winter Ogilvy. Winter, I hope I say your name right because I see it on there all the time and I really like it. Ogilvy was like, what was that? Was that like makeup back in the day?
Are you thinking of Ovaltine?
No, Ovaltine is a chocolate drink. That was delicious. When I was a kid. I haven't had it in a long time. What are your top things that you must do before you start school? What ducks do you need to get in a row? So, you know me and those sayings. Who thought get your ducks in a row? Who was lining up ducks one day? And they were like, you know what? This is a metaphor I use for everything because I'm used to lining up ducks. My things are, I like to get my room into, doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be like everything I'm going to need in the beginning of the year is done. And then everything that's not done gets like shoved somewhere because I want to at least create the illusion of togetherness. So I don't have any like half murals done on my wall. I don't have any half built projects in my room. Like my desks are all cleaned off. My desk is cleaned off. Like things are where they need to be. And that makes me walk into my room on that first day, like with a sense of calm because I know what's going on. I also like to make all of my copies. Like, so as soon as the staff goes back on that first day of PD, I'm making copies. I don't wait till later because the printer's going to break 17 times. The paper didn't come in on the delivery on time. Everybody else is doing it. The new teacher jammed that thing up already. And now you got to help them figure it out. And I'd rather help them figure it out and not think, damn it, I'm trying to make my copies. I'd rather just help them out because I can. So those are really the things that I try to think of the most. My first couple of days largely look the same from year to year. So I don't really have, there's not a whole lot of stuff I have to remake. Like my PowerPoints are already on lock. My PowerPoint about me is on lock. How to write yourself a letter is already on lock. So like, that's the kind of stuff that's already there. I go back to school every year really just excited to see everyone because I haven't seen everyone over the summer and I just am pumped to see them when I go back. But that's it. And I just want to make sure like any little changes are updated, like my syllabus and all that. But I'd like to have that done before I go back to PD. And then I go to PD and I can just be there instead of like worrying about all the things I have to do. I also, it's important for me to say too, that like, I don't pack up my room at the end of the year. I'm supposed to, but I just don't because I think it's dumb. And so I like don't take anything down unless I want my walls painted. I don't move anything. I don't put anything away except if I know summer school is being taught in my room, I might take certain things off my shelves to make sure that they don't just disappear over the summer because I'm not always sure who the teacher is going to be. But I think that's a terrible practice that they make teachers do. Like take all your stuff down, put it all away and pack it up, put it in the middle of the room. And then no one does anything to your room all summer anyway. And then you got to just pull it back out and like re-put it back up. Like, why do we do that? That was weird. So I try and stay away from that practice. And I've never gotten pushback about it either. Like I used to do it and then it was like, why am I doing this? And now I just don't do it. And no one ever says anything to me. They tell me every year, like, did you pack up your room? And I'm like, it's as packed up as it's getting. But what that really means is no. Kirsten H is asking, how can you explain the savior mindset in further detail? I want to teach in a low-income school to have kids, give kids a quality education no matter their location. Am I using the savior mindset? So look, this is a great question. And it's something I think about a lot because there's this, for those of you that are like maybe unaware or you haven't thought about this yet, there's this idea that white folks, or mainly what I'm going to say white folks, right? It could be a number of other people, right? Like just people that come from a better, like more well-to-do situation, going into impoverished, low socioeconomic or like low-income neighborhoods and teaching there with the idea that they want to be the one that helps these kids, that saves them from an otherwise tumultuous life. The problem with that, of course, is that who are you? Who are you to do any saving at all? And it makes this weird thing where it's like I'm the power. Like I'm the rich white dude that's going to come in, or you know, no one's rich if they're a teacher really, but like they're. I'm having a hard time explaining this because I think about it all the time. I don't really say it all the time. Anyway, let me say this. I think most movies set teachers up for disaster in that sense. When you look at Dangerous Minds, when you look at Freedom Writers, there's a certain part of that everyone loves, right? Like someone went in and helped somebody that needed help. Awesome. I think Lauryn Hill said that everyone's job is to pull the next person out of the pit, something like that, right? So like you get out and then you put your hand down and you pull someone else out of the pit. The problem, so maybe I don't even need to explain this, why the savior complex is an issue. How to not do that is one, just know that you're not saving anyone. I'm not saving anybody. I could have just as easily taught somewhere else. Two, low-income students are not the only students that need help. I used to be on this kind of pedestal when I started teaching, or at least, and maybe I didn't say this to people, but I thought it definitely, that like I teach in the hood. Like, where do you, you teach in like some bougie area? But the fact of the matter is that all students need good teachers. That students that are growing up, even when their parents have all the money in the world and they're taking Christmas break and going down the friggin' Rhine River in Germany, like on their family's boat, you don't know what those parents are like. You don't know if they're mentally or physically abusive. You don't know if they care about their students. You don't know if they just like have a nanny raise them and they don't actually ever give them any love and attention. Like those kids grow up lonely also. So that was something I had to like come to terms with. And then it is far better to be a part of a community of educators than it is to try and be the one. That shit is lonely, and it is not worth your time because it is not showing students a whole bunch of important stuff. Like, what does it look like to collaborate with other people? What does it look like to collaborate with people that do not look like you, sound like you, or come from the same place as you, right? So when I partner with my friend, Mr. Hasty, who's the African-American man that teaches next to me, when I partner with Miss Cho, whose family came from Korea and is an immigrant, when I partner with any number of other people in my building, that shows students something really, really important. I think the other thing is that savior mindset comes from people that helicopter in. They like come from like their safe, reliable neighborhood, which there's nothing against that. Like there's something to like living in like a predictable place. But when you helicopter in to the hood, you drop your knowledge and then you helicopter out. There's a disconnect there, right? You're not becoming a part of the community, and you're doing your children, your students a disservice by not knowing where they come from. The wife is telling me to move on, but I'm going to hang on to this for one more second because I think there's value in seeing what parks your kids play at, going to the corner stores that they go to, going out to eat in that particular neighborhood, like taking a different way home so you have a fuller sense of who your students are is part of the game, right? And that's no matter where you teach. You could teach in the hood and go, or live in the hood and go teach in a bougie neighborhood, and you should do the same thing. And then getting to know who your students are. And that could be, for me, it's like young Black and brown men that live in West Philadelphia. But if I taught on a reservation somewhere, if I taught in the mountains of Kentucky, I would do the same thing. I'd find out what makes that, like try to immerse myself in that culture as much as possible so I can just be a helping hand. And I think for me, it's a mindset. It's a constant reminder of I'm not here to sell or save anyone. I'm here to plant seeds and to help where I can, right? And so that is, I think of the prayer of St. Francis, and I'm always looking for where I might be able to help in the world, and that's it. If I win, awesome. If I don't, it's largely out of my hands. And so that's kind of my quick rant on that. So I hope that was useful. That would be a great question to have like people have like a dialogue about and like really kind of work it out. Mm-hmm. Hey, it's hot for teaching. How do you manage family life, YouTube, work, and fitness? Oh my gosh, I don't freaking know half the time, right? So like, so let me say this. I am known amongst my family and my friends for getting up early. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I start my day then. That really gives me a head start because when most people aren't waking up till 8, 9, 10, I am years away from them. And my kids aren't up yet and stuff like that. Like, so if I get up early, I meditate and do my prayer thing, and then I run, and then if I go to the gym and then I'm doing work, I'm like light years ahead of everyone by the time like lunch comes around. This summer, my children have been staying up much, much later, which means I stay up much, much later. We don't go to bed till like 1 o'clock in the morning usually, which means we sleep until like 9 o'clock in the morning this summer, which is completely...
We've never done this in our lives.
Dude, never, ever, ever. But my thing this summer is I'm letting myself sleep until I wake up. I'm not setting an alarm. So maybe if I could get my ass to bed on a reasonable hour, that would be naturally waking up at 5. But as soon as I wake up, I don't turn over when I'm awake. I don't notice that I'm awake or that the sun's up. Like I just get up. That hasn't happened until 8:30, 8:30, 9 o'clock. So how do I balance that? What's that?
Go ahead.
I am mindful of all the time I spend. So, and I beat myself about this a lot too, because I want to get way more done in a day than I can. But when I'm playing video games with Brody up in his room, I'm only playing video games with Brody. I'm not on my phone. When I have morning meetings, which I have with my wife every single morning, it is just coffee and morning meeting and nothing else. I'm not on my phone. I can't say that about everyone, but I am not on my phone. When I'm doing work, I'm just doing work. I don't field questions from my wife. I don't field questions from my kids. Like everyone knows. And I actually made a sign that I hang up on my office door that says something about like, what do I say?
Making dreams come true.
Making dreams come true. Please do not disturb.
No visitors, please.
No visitors, please. And so I would say that is the biggest thing, is being just doing what you're doing when you're doing it. I'm never half-assing anything. I'm only whole-assing everything, as Ron Swanson would say. So that's my biggest way that I kind of get around that. What's up?
I need this.
Phone dying. Audrey Nowak is saying, I love audiobooks. Are you going to narrate yours? Pretty please. So Audrey, I am. So I don't know. I don't know if a lot of.
We don't know the process of anything.
Yeah. So like for Burgess Consulting, it's Dave Burgess, the guy that did Teach Like a Pirate. He's creating my book. They're publishing my book. I don't know if they set that up, but I do know that Hamish Brewer, right? That's his name. Hamish Brewer. He's from New Zealand. He just did an audiobook for his book that came out through them. Here's what I know, is that even if the publisher doesn't do it, I'm going to do it myself anyway, because there's a number of folks that follow my YouTube stuff that are blind. And so I want to make sure that they have opportunity to read the book as well. Because I'm assuming, I don't know how Braille works either, but I'm assuming most publishers don't put out like little titles with Braille. But if I can create an audiobook for it, I would really like to be able to do that as well. Plus I love audiobooks. So that might just be literally me on YouTube for 7 hours reading my book. That could be an option, but I'd like to do it a little bit more professionally.
Is something happening?
Uh-oh, did I freeze? Doesn't look like it. I don't know. Let's leave a comment. I'm not really sure if this just froze up or not.
Yeah, I can't even get my phones to work. Is anybody saying anything in the comments? I can't get any of this to work.
It looks frozen. You can text Tracy Pinter also. She'll be able to tell you. Oh, someone said not frozen for me. All right. Well, if Erica Whitechurch says that it's not frozen for her, then let's go.
Oh, she gave you pushback on the Erica Whitechurch on the YouTuber that you were saying you get like just tons of positivity. She said she thinks that Michelle from Pocketful Primary probably gets the same amount of love and audience. Like she's a good. She
does, but she has told me that she gets a lot of angry comments.
Oh.
But she will equate that to the fact that a large part of her audience are like 12-year-olds. And she's like, they don't like when you change stuff. They get very angry when you do that. So, yeah.
Oh, here's your next question. Sorry.
And she's actually one of the people I was thinking of that like teases me that like, oh, you never get any harsh comments. Earl Snyder is asking, I have a classroom set of Chromebooks to use this year. Any suggestions on monitoring their online behavior for consequences or misuse? Yeah, snap. Earl, do me a favor, because maybe someone on here knows what that is. But if we don't, Bridget from Lettered Classroom was just telling me about when we were at ISTE together, we saw this company and they created something that allows you to, on your computer, keep an eye on what all of your students are doing. So it like allows you access to what's on their screens so that you can just keep an eye and make sure. That's a little bit creepy, but I totally understand it because, you don't want kids watching basketball highlights when they're supposed to be doing work. So that's what I would use, but I can't remember what that program is. So if somebody in the side knows, awesome. If they don't, shoot me an email. I'll ask her and then I'll email the name of that right to you. And I think Chromebooks are good for a number, like they're not good for a lot of stuff, but I use them for like creating comic books in the classroom. I use them for a company that I've done work with in the past called storybird.com that I create children's books with my guys every year through. It's good for using Google Docs and stuff like that. So if students are working collaboratively, they can see what one or another are writing or how they're filling something out, and that works as well. What you got there, dude? Oh, I know what time it is.
No, I got it. Time for a drink.
Esther Lynn is asking, what is your procedure for taking attendance? So I have, gosh, I wish I had a paper of this. Esther, I can send you my seating chart if you want, but just email me at realrapwithreynolds@gmail.com. I'll send it right to you. But it's essentially, I have, let's do it like this, wife.
Okay, I have to handle kids stuff.
Okay. This is my classroom, as if it were written in a very smudgy marker. This is student A. They have a number next on their chair, like that. This is student B. They have a number also, number 2, C, D, and then E, F. So this is a couple of things. One, I have a whole video on this on my YouTube channel as well. I do alphabetical order in the beginning of the year. I also do rows in the beginning of the year because it's what my students are used to. And I'm not trying to rock the boat that hard in the beginning of the year in this way. Later in the year, I make much more flexible seating and students can pretty much sit wherever they want. But in the beginning of the year, I don't know everyone's face. I don't know everyone's name. So I need you to be in the seat. So when the bell rings, if student A is not in their seat, student A doesn't, they get a point off that day and because they were screwing around or they were late to class or whatever. Putting them in alphabetical order in this way also allows me to go up this aisle, handing stuff back. Then I can go here. Then I can come back up here. Which instead of going back and then walking all the way up here to give this kid his paper, walking down, walking all the way up to this kid to give his paper, allows you to flow through the room instead. And then I only have to look at bodies. So I hold this in front of me. And then I look, is that kid sitting right there? If they're not there, if the body's not there, absent. And then if they go, oh, no, I was just over here. I was talking to somebody. Bro, you know the deal. When the bell rings, you got to be in your seat, which means you're late now. So I just change it from, I put an A there for absent, L for late. And then I can also use that same seating chart to put grades on. So if I'm going around like checking stuff or I'm putting grades for independent reading or participation, I write all that on the chart as well, keep all those papers together till the end of the week, and then I throw my grades in. But that's how I rock that. Are you behind now?
Did you just answer that one?
From behind the scenes children drama that's going on in the house. Kids. Doesn't even get any less dramatic. From here on out, I don't think. Joshua is asking, starting school this coming Wednesday, any suggestions or ideas for helping to get to know each other in class? P.S. I teach freshman English. So, Josh, I would say I have 2 videos maybe 3 videos I would suggest to you. One is anything on building relationships with students. I would watch that on my channel. I would also watch what do I do my first day of school, my second day of school, because I walk through this. To me, I'm not an icebreaker kind of person, right? It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them. A lot of people have a lot of success with icebreakers. It's just not my jam. So, but what I do instead is I give my students a very quick who am I paper, which like has them fill things out, and I can send that to anybody that wants it. Just send me an email. I'll send it to you for free. Those are eventually going to go up on the website and people can just download them for free. And once you do that, you have information on all of your students. The other thing I do is do a life map odyssey, or life map odyssey, whatever the hell I call it. But it is essentially creating your life map from birth till now in 10 events. So what were the most important events that made you who you are today? So clearly being born is the number one thing for everyone. Because if we weren't born, we wouldn't even be here. And then like you're at our school. So that's going to be another life-changing event. So was someone born? Did someone die? Did someone get divorced? Did someone stay together? Did you win a championship? Did you learn from a failure? Did you learn from a success? Like what 10 moments got you there? And then that's going to give you so much insight on your students that you're not even going to know what to do with that insight. And it allows students to present in the beginning of the year and give you a whole bunch of information on like, are they comfortable talking in front of other people? Do they love it? Are they funny? Are they quiet? Have they been through something really difficult? Have they been through something awesome? Did they grow up in France and you didn't know that? Like whatever it is, it's fine if you need to talk across the room. So that's the way that I get to know my students the best, and it has literally been a game changer in the classroom because you learn so much stuff. But I explained that whole process on a whole video that I've done already that you can check out online. What you got? Oh, this one? Why does it keep freezing on the phone? I wonder if it's just our internet. And Alicia Green is asking, where do you keep your old lesson plans, notebooks, or flash drives? How often do you use them? I used to keep everything, right? What I find is that it's better to take all the stuff you used to use that you're not really using anymore, and I put it away. I just have it in a crate or in the tote. excuse me, that I keep in my attic. And then if I want to go back to that, I can. But I don't like having 1,000 things. This isn't the Library of Congress. I like to keep, excuse me, it's time for a water break, I think. I'm verklempt again. The kids always try and duck when they go by, and it's really not as effective as they think it is. It's like you could just walk by normally, like, and it would be a lot faster. But I think, what do I do with all that old stuff? It's all organized. So when I used to keep everything in binders, it's all organized in binders, and it's organized in like what I do with it. And then at the end of that binder, I keep all the stuff that are ideas for the future, or maybe, or kind of a cool idea, but I haven't used them yet. They're in a different section. Nowadays, I have everything on Google Drive, and I have it according to what unit it is. And then once you click on that unit drive, so if you go into Fahrenheit 451, I'll have like journal entries, tests, vocabulary. And then once you go into vocabulary, it's like vocab PowerPoints, vocab activities, vocab tests and quizzes. Like, it's all organized like that, but it's very, very simple. It's not anything like super over the top. And maybe that's worth doing a video on, but I feel like Pocket Full of Primary just did one on like how she organizes her Google Drive. I should really have Edie do my organization, and then that would be better. But are you all right? Did you get hurt?
Just got my foot got stuck.
All right. You just got the stitches out, so be careful. Mar got hurt at the beach the other week, and so she had to get stitches out. But that's basically how I do that. I keep everything on a flash drive also, but that's for backup. So if the school's internet goes down one day, I'm not screwed. I have everything on a flash drive for a backup. And there are hiccups in that because I don't update that all the time. I do it like once a year, but that all exists on something else as well. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. Terrible Decisions. This is the best name of the week. We were told students can't grade because of FERPA. Any ideas if there is a workaround? That's weird. I think that's worth asking. So what we do is like, look, every year I get TAs, and our principal came up with this idea several years ago, and it's really been great, where there are kids that are either in 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, and they are really great students. They either work really hard, or they have really great grades, or they like are just good all around students. They are allowed to be teaching assistants instead of taking an elective. And what that means is they come to my room every day, and I have someone in the back of my room. So last year it was my guy, Joe. Joe would come in every day. He would organize things for me. He would grade stuff for me. But he wasn't allowed, what I don't allow them to do is put grades in my grade book, because that is a legal document. It's only for me to touch. And so I don't even like when the school messes with my grade book. I get mad. I'm just going to say that. I get mad when they touch my grade book. So I have them grade stuff, but I'm wondering if you had students grade stuff and then you checked it for completeness, right? Like, so like you made sure that it was all right. Also, grades are not be all end all for me. So it seems weird to me that your school would do that, because let's say a student grades something and let's say they make a mistake. The student that I'm giving it back to should check that anyway. And if my rule in my class is, bro, I'm always down for the argument. So one of the way I minimize questions during tests is when everyone starts raising their hand and asking questions, I go, because they'll say, there's 4 multiple choice questions, but I think it could be 2, or I think it's one that's not here. I go, dude, just write your response or explain why you picked 2. I picked both of these because in class we talked about this, you made this point, and then this happened, and I think this happened in the book. Like, explain your answer, and then we can have a conversation about it. So in lieu of a workaround, I would just use something like ZipGrader. It costs money, and I'm not affiliated with them at all. But like, I have used their program, and it's free for like the first set number of things, and then you can get a subscription. But I think you can also get a subscription and share it with other people. I'm not really sure if that works, but if it works, it might be an option. So like that, it's like Netflix. It's like all of our friends. Somebody has Amazon, someone has Netflix, someone has Hulu, and someone has Amazon Prime. And then we just trade usernames and passwords. Am I afraid anyone's going to pick up on that and get me in trouble? Nope, because I live on the edge. So that's what I'm thinking. Other than that, I'm not sure like another kind of workaround for that situation. It just seems weird. I'd be interested to know like exactly what that ruling is in FERPA that says that you can't do that. Like, what are they looking at? Because if it's just the mindlessness of grading multiple choice answers, like it's better. I will also say that ZipGrader lets you know like what were the average for each one. So like maybe question number 1 was a good question and most people got it right. Maybe question number 2, most kids got wrong, and it will give you the averages for all those. So you can say like, why did they get that wrong? Did we not go over that so well? Did I explain it wrong? Did I make a mistake on the test and it read weird? It gives you that kind of information too, which really helps out.
Have you ever tried to read the FERPA law?
Have I tried to read FERPA law? Babe, come on.
I have.
No.
Actually, it's really.
It's one of those things you do in college. No.
I did it for special ed.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Well, I feel like they try and make that stuff so you can't really read it anyway.
Yeah, it's like reading.
It's like a contract. It's like that's why you go to a lawyer whenever you get a contract, because you're just like, bro, they're trying to make it difficult. It's like going to a special ed meeting when they're just like, your IEP and 504 are. It's like, bro, what are we? Can you use regular people language? The special ed teachers love acronyms and initials. It's like their favorite thing. When Yonkers comes over to talk with us, it's just like, Yonk, I know you're the head of the special ed department, but you just ordered dinner using an acronym. You can't do that. I'll have a CEP on a KOR bun. It's like, come on, girl. Maisley Anderson is asking, do you have any tips for someone with anxiety because they've been bullied? I do. So I will say, how do I want to address this? I would first say that growing up, 7th and 8th grade was mildly bullied, never like beat up or anything like that, but bullied enough that like I got in a couple of fights. 9th grade, I went to arguably the toughest school in New Jersey, in South Jersey anyway, where my first day of school, I saw someone get thrown through a window during a fight. I saw kids get hit with pipes. I saw kids get jumped in the bathroom. The bathrooms had no mirrors or doors on the bathroom stalls because kids got beat up there all the time. I got my ass beat probably 90% of the days that I went my freshman year, right? And so that fills you with an incredible amount of anxiety. It also stops you from going to the bathroom, because I didn't go to the bathroom in school, not even the pee, for the first year. And I would run home from the bus stop because I had to pee so bad. That being said, so how do you bounce back from that, right? Because I'd say largely now, in most areas of my life, I like exude confidence, right? Like that's how I work. Some of that to me has been finding friends that make me feel confident, putting myself around people that are awesome. And when you hang around with awesome people all the time, you start feeling awesome too, especially when awesome people are telling you you're awesome. It's like compounding effect. I think part of that also, and this is going to sound weird, right? But like, I think self-talk has an enormous amount to do with overcoming anxiety, and has for me. It has literally been me telling myself that I'm awesome, telling myself that I'm great. Because as it turns out, from all that I've read about neurology, like your brain cannot differentiate between reality and fantasy. So if you sit and you contemplate how grateful you are, how awesome your life is, it doesn't necessarily make your life awesome. Like it doesn't, like your electric bill doesn't end up being paid because you thought about it. But what you're doing is retraining your brain, and you're operating from that space instead of operating from a space where you are constantly looking for the negative in things. And I've read a ton of studies about this, and it turns out that's really like a real thing. I think the other part of that is maybe seeing someone like a therapist or a counselor that can help you work through your problems. I think the beauty in that is that oftentimes we get stuck in thought patterns, right? So like if I take out my trusty piece of paper again, draw another delightful picture here. Everyone has a pattern. You know that like I have a thing when someone tells me we're going to hang out and then they forget about it or they don't show up. That really affects me, ties into all the stuff from when I was a kid, right? So my pattern would be to get to that problem, and I usually go left, and then I go around it, and then I get through it. Going through therapy, what that allows you to do is go straight through the problem and figure out how to deal with it. You figure out how to deal with your anxiety instead of trying to get rid of your anxiety. Because a lot of times, those feelings of self-deprecation and stuff that we all have, whether it's about you being a teacher or you in your marriage or you being a parent, whatever it is, doesn't go away. What we need is to learn tools and how to deal with that. So sometimes a professional can really help you with that kind of stuff as well. But I've found that like self-talk, I find that exercise really helps me. So whenever my wife sees that I'm getting annoying, and she'll go like this, dude, go for a run, dude, go to the gym, because it resets my brain somehow. I don't know what what's happening, what kind of magic is happening in there, but that really does make me feel better. But to me, more than anything in the world, is putting yourself around the right people makes you better. Laura Jones is asking, any advice, if anybody else has that feels like a really important question. If anyone else has a good answer for that or wants to try and help out in that, please go ahead and connect, because I feel like that would be really useful. Thank you. Laura Jones is saying, any advice for special ed side of co-teaching? I'll be a high school special ed math teacher this year with 3 different co-teacher classes. So Laura, I would say, first of all, awesome. Thanks for doing that work, because it's really, really important. For me, what I want from a co-teacher, so if you're co-teaching, if you're not just in-class support, is someone that's actually going to co-teach. But that's going to come down to you and your co-teacher figuring out, what do we want this to look like? Because all co-teachers are going to want different stuff. I like making believe anyway that we're on the same level, that we're never bumping heads, that we're never playing mom and dad against one another, that and we can have the conversation later. So I might back my co-teacher on something that I don't really want to, but I'm going to do it in front of the kids. And then later we have the conversation about it. I think also seeing what you can do to take on your part of the work. So for me, I don't ask my co-teacher to grade anything. My expectation is that they are doing special education paperwork and taking care of that stuff. That is something they specialize in, something they do much better than I do. And that frees me up to be able to do the grading. So that's the part that I do as well. And then knowing, I think it's just something that you get better at as you go along, right? It's your first date is kind of weird. If I go on my date with my wife now, we're honed in with one another. So it's asking that teacher that is the main teacher, or they are the primary teacher for that stuff, not just for the kids. What do they see your role being, and how can you help in the classroom? That's what I would go in with. And then I think as the year goes on, it's always about learning how to have those difficult conversations. This is your whole life, right? I think your whole life is predicated on your ability to have difficult conversations. And we can learn how to do those with other people that you work with, especially co-teachers. It's just going to take your whole teaching game to the next level. What you got, dude?
Oh, sorry.
Come and knock at our door. We'll be waiting for you. When the kisses are hers and his, three's company too. That song sounds a wrong message.
Oh,
Unicorns Rock, my buddy. If you don't follow Unicorns Rock on anything, you should, because she's fantastic. And she plays ukuleles. Can you observe others in your field? A very untapped resource. This is an interesting question. Can you observe others in your field? A very untapped resource are your colleagues. My district gets few opportunities to present sharing sessions, but would be so valuable to us all. That's an interesting idea.
Do you personally get to share?
Unicorns, are you talking about me? Somebody sending me a taped class and then I would critique that? It's a very interesting idea.
I'm not sure. I feel
like that would fit into
responding to somebody else, but forgot to put the at whoever.
Oh, okay. Maybe not then. That would be actually a cool thing to do, for mentoring. Mm-hmm. To have people next level it. We meet for mentoring sessions, and then the next level would be, okay, I want you to do a lesson. I want you to send it to me, and then I'll break it down for you.
Yeah. Did you share our little sharing session with everybody?
That's maybe part of tomorrow's morning meeting.
Some real behind the scenes look everyone just got.
That was some behind the scenes stuff right there. That was extra footage. TPSU129 is saying, what could, I feel like that's like a stormtrooper name. TPSU429.
No,
Do you
totally.
copy? We're all good here. I'm just going to say the whole Star Wars script now. What would you do if you were getting a bunch of 9th graders that were not proficient with the 8th grade math PSSA? Some are even on 3rd or 4th grade level. So look, I deal with this all the time. I get students that are on 2nd and 3rd grade reading level, and they're coming in the 9th grade. What you want to do is a number of things. One, you need to learn where those students are really. Are they just not taking that test because they don't think it's important, because they struggle taking tests, because they have not been provided with the adequate resources to be able to take that test, or do they really struggle? So in some way, shape, or form, you need to assess that situation. Sometimes you can give tests out in your class to sort of like a summative, not a summative assessment, but like an assessment to really get a feel for where they are. So like our school uses things like the STARS test, or there's some other ones out there. Then you can just looking at the answers, you can see, someone just chalk it? Do they just not want to do it? Or do they really put the time and effort in to see? And you can see that like, no, but they picked this answer, which is close to this answer. So they might have a problem in this particular area. That'll give you information. I think empowering students is going to be the biggest thing, especially if they're going in 8th grade. We're talking kids that if you're on a 2nd grade reading level or a 2nd grade math level, you have been done wrong by the education system. And that's not always the teacher's fault. It's largely the district's fault, because they don't provide teachers with adequate resources. They don't provide special education teachers with adequate resources. And so instead of giving them the resources they need, because all kids can learn, all kids should be on level, but if they're not given the right resources, or they're like, our son who has dyslexia, his teacher last year came to us and was like, I don't even know, I don't know why they put him with me, because I don't even know what dyslexia is. Isn't that when you write and read things backwards? And it's like, yeah, that's part of it. But the fact that you even answered it that way shows me that you do not know what dyslexia is. And so it's troubling. So I think finding out where those kids where their problems lie, and then trying to build up their confidence so they know they can grow. You're celebrating the small wins. You're not damning them for not being able to do the work you think they should be able to do. And not saying that you would go ahead and do that anyway, but it is about trying to get them, move the needle in a way where you're not going to pretend they're anything but what they already are. And bro, I get it that you're on a 2nd grade reading level or 2nd grade math level, but what we're going to do is try and get you to hear. And then that's going to set the course for you to keep on growing over time. So that's what I would do. And then I would hound your special ed department and make sure that kid's getting everything they need. Because oftentimes I know that schools, especially with very little means, work with special ed departments that just don't have it. And I'm not saying put pressure on the special ed department, unless pressure is needed, right? I'm not sure what kind of people you're dealing with, but for me, I asked my special ed department head, Miss Yonkers, who's a friend of mine, I let her know what I need so she can let the school know, so they can let the board know, so that hopefully something trickles down over time. But maybe if you're working with a special ed department that we've worked with our son, which is literally some of the worst human beings I've ever known in my life, it's about applying pressure and really letting them know that I'm not going to let my kid get forgotten about. I need what I need so my kid can get what he needs to get so he can be successful in life. Fenrir's Fort? These are some of the best names tonight. I can't even stand it. What do you do about your...
private life, I think.
Oh, my private life with students. What do you share when you don't have a conventional life at home? I get feedback to be more personal and not just listen to my students' stories. Hold on. I think I'm reading this wrong, and I just want to make sure.
He's asking I guess he gets told by his admin to share, to be more relatable to his students and not just listen to his students' stories.
Yeah.
But he's saying he doesn't have a conventional, he or she, I don't recall, I guess, doesn't have a conventional personal life.
So,
you know what that makes me think of? There was somebody on here that was like, they said, do they come out to their students?
yeah, I remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said, do they come out to their
They
students?
did, and I think like life seems grand.
Yeah,
for him.
but that might not be
Like
the same everywhere you teach, right? Like,
No,
I'm not
it's
sure
not.
exactly what that means. So, gosh, what would I say about this? I would say I don't let students know everything about me, but to be relatable doesn't mean you have to put all your cards on the table, right? So one of the things I don't talk about my politics unless I'm asked, and even then I play both sides. Like, I'm not, because, and look, my school is like very leans towards one way politically, right? So it's not like I'm like going to offend students if I talk about it, but I talk about it not from a place of like having an opinion, but I try to be objective about that. I don't really talk about my spirituality unless I'm asked, and it's like during lunch and someone asks me about it. I'm not afraid of sharing that because I'm not trying to like convert anyone. I'm just trying to share who I am, to give kids a fuller picture of who I am and why I do the things I do, why I teach the places that I teach, why I have activities outside of school the way that I have them. I think the end of the day is, though, like when you can share things about yourself, what that does is it makes you more relatable. Like, it makes kids see you as an actual person and not as just the teacher or something like that. So I think when I talk about like doing that life map that I talked about a few minutes ago, like I share when I was born. I share that my father died when I was 4. I share that my mom died when I was 22. I share that I love playing music. Like, drums have been a really important thing in my life growing up. I share that I run. I share that I have a YouTube channel. I share that I have kids, or that I have a dog, or that I like woodworking, or that if I could magically be good at any one thing in the world, it would be playing piano or dancing, because both of those are just awesome things I would love to be able to do really well. And so one of those I pretend to be very good at. And then there's piano, which I don't know how to play. So that stuff makes you more relatable. It makes you, like, if your kids are talking about comic books, talk about comic books. Like, create spaces to talk about things that are important to you. What's the dirtiest you've ever been? What is like your favorite song of all time? What's a song that magically transcends time and space and takes you back to a very specific place when you hear it? Like, those kind of questions, no matter what your life is like, could be better. If you're talking about something specific, here's what I would recommend you do. Like, I don't know what your life is and what makes it unconventional. If you go to, I promise you that you'll get love for this. Go to our Facebook group, the closed Facebook group, Real Rap With Reynolds, Teacher Talk. And I've had people go in there and say, hey, I'm in same-sex marriage, and I'm not really sure like what to make. Like, do I tell my students about this? Do I not tell them about this? It feels like I'm kind of like in this struggle mode. Do I tell students how religious I am? Do I tell students that I had a miscarriage and that's why I've been out of school? Like, those are things that, like, there are going to be folks, having like, do I have, like, I have cancer and that's why I'm going to be out of school, or I'm not sure what the prognosis is going to be. There are ways in which to share some of this information if you're comfortable, and there are people in the group that would be more than willing to talk to you about that and connect with you about that, and even be a support system through that stuff. So that would be my other recommendation to do for that.
Last two questions.
I am starving, by the way. Starving. I need you to make dinner. Stack. My wife just makes dinner for me all the time. Well, she watches me make dinner sometimes, and then she just gets aggravated that I'm so slow, and then she just jumps in. E.E. Newton is asking, what about a quote-unquote adult language like frigging or shit? I've heard you use them in videos. I like the casual, fun way that you talk. Is it acceptable in the classroom setting? So look, I'm going to say, how do I am going to say this in a way that I'm not trying to convince anyone how they should or should not interact with their students, and not everything's for everyone. The way I talk to certain students is not the way I talk to other students. So when I got to break something down to Cephas or to Cheesesteak or to Kent or to Joe or to Marcus, like, there's certain kids you've seen in videos that I've known for a long time, or DJ Dirty Kev. I talk a very specific way to DJ Dirty Kev that I would not talk to other students. And sometimes that I do curse when I talk about that. talk to those students. It is always strategic. It is never in front of anyone else. But I found years ago, I had this kid, Daryl was a student of mine. Daryl had gotten kicked out of school for, I forget what he did, but it was like, he really almost really, really hurt someone. A friend of mine at the school went out on a limb and asked this kid to come back. The student then had a much better time at our school, but was going to fail senior year significantly. And he and I had a conversation at the end of that year that was like, look, bro, I'm going to break shit down for you real quick because you're about to ruin stuff big time. And someone like went out on a limb for you and you're about to fucking ruin that. And so, look, I do not think cursing at your students, cursing in class, cursing in school is condonable. I do know that at the end of that conversation with the student who was 19 years old, he literally came back to me later, like after graduation, he's like, that was literally the best conversation I've ever had with this teacher because you were real with me and you were authentic and you spoke in a way that I understood. And not to say that kids only know how to understand through cursing, but that has showed me that like to say the word shit or friggin' or whatever, like sometimes it breaks down a wall with students and sends the message that I'm trying to be real. And that's where my title, Real Rap with Reynolds, came from. It's about having honest and real conversations with students in a way that they can understand them and in a way that is authentic. And so to me, that has been really, really meaningful. So I don't go start doing that. Just like you shouldn't go driving kids home like I do. It is a time, a place, and people know how I roll in my school, and it is okay, but it's the type of school I teach at also. There's all these, like, I want to give all these caveats because I don't want people getting in trouble, but I just know that, like, that's important to me. What's this? Mr. Ramos. I really want to say also teaching with Mr. Hayes. Not sure if you're still doing the haircut thing. I am. I'm actually going to email my school this week to see how we can sort of streamline that this year to make sure that they're not students. Yeah. So like, thank you very much. And what he's alluding to, Mr. Hayes, what Mr. Hayes is alluding to there is that we were collecting money. And I want to do another collection for that for students that want to get haircuts that can't afford them. We pay a local barber who's a former student of mine that cuts their hair, and they get it for free. And then I get to pay my former student like a good tip and his full wage for giving kids haircuts, because otherwise your mom cuts it in the kitchen. Sometimes that shit looks jacked up. Mr. Ramos is asking, hey guys, a student taught and mentored at a Title I school for the last few years. How do you balance pouring into your students to make sure that they feel loved while still having energy to pour? I think.
Oh, so down below too.
Oh, is there another one?
Well.
Gotcha, Mr. Ramos.
Added on.
Do not see that. Can you find it, please?
He just said he has a couple of little kids, like
at home.
Yeah, he has a 3 and a 5-year-old little boys.
I find that the thing that gives me the most juice is getting up early, exercising, meditating, being grateful, and envisioning what I want my day to look like. So I know what's going to happen. Down to, this is what it looks like when I get out of my car. This is what it looks like when I walk down the hallway today. This is what it looks like when students come into my class. This is how I'm interacting with people. So I'm on the front end of that. It's never happening to me. It's happening for me. Then when I come home, I am not doing that anymore. And it is difficult for me to shut that off because my students text me a lot. They email me at night. Some students, they try and FaceTime me all the time. It's like, bro, I'm not FaceTiming you. I'm a grown man. I'm not FaceTiming with kids. But what I, it's hard for me to turn off because when like hard things happen at school, I often bring that home. But that's why I started running at night, either also, or that's when it just happens, so that I can like check myself and then I'm just with my kids. I don't bring almost any work home from school ever anymore because home time is home time. And if I don't get home till 6 o'clock, I only get 3 hours with my youngest daughter. And so it's like, I want to maximize that time. So I try to turn it off. And it's about getting over the fact for me that I am not the be all end all in these children's lives. And I'm part of a community of educators that's working towards planting seeds in students and not just fixing them all the time. And when I can get into that and know that not every child's their seed's not going to grow as fast as everyone else's, it gives me some solace in the fact that I don't have to go in and fix everything every day. Just dropping seeds, man. Watering, fertilizing, repeat. Some kids are going to grow like morning glories and going to grow fast and furious. Other kids are going to grow like bamboo, which grows their roots long underground for a series of years before they start skyrocketing. And you thought that shit was dead. And here, lo and behold, it is like, out of control with growth and magic and wonder and awesomeness. So that's that. Gang, we're done for tonight. That was the last question because I got to feed my kids because they're going to starve to death.
Who has to feed them?
Well, my wife has to feed my kids,
Mhm.
but I can't do this without her. Look, if you were looking for someone to speak at your school, please let me know. If you're looking to do mentoring or go deeper, you can let me know about that. There's also the Facebook group that you can join into. And I real quick want to thank my friend Unicorns Rock and Tracy Pinter. Why was I blanking on her name? They have a little wrench next to their name because they help keep this place clean. And when I can't look at all the comments, they are the ones that are going through and making sure that everyone's being cool. Because every once in a while, that Satan guy shows up and he starts dropping some weird knowledge on everybody. So I appreciate those people, and I appreciate all the people that gave money tonight. Thank you so much. I deeply, deeply appreciate all of you. And I hope you have a great beginning into your year. And that's it. Peace. Awkward ending where I got to hit all this stuff, and then we keep talking, and then sometimes I hit the wrong thing, and it goes to a weird spot, and then